Hey guys, and welcome back to Star Control 2, and having heard the Ur-Quan and Koraz side of ancient events, it's now time to hear it from the Melnorme.
Welcome back, Captain. You are our favorite customer. Now, what can we do for you today? What would you like to sell, Captain? The 388 units of biological data we downloaded from your ship earn you 776 credits. What trade items would you like to buy today? How much fuel do you wish to purchase? Fuel transferred to your vessel. How wonderful, Captain. Almost 25,000 of your years ago, there existed near this region of space an association of star-faring races called the Sentient Milu. This group formed over several thousand years to mutually enrich their respective cultures, to provide a safe creche for emerging sentient species, and to afford themselves a degree of protection from external hostilities via military alliance. Of the 7 most active Milu members, the most famous race, indeed, you know them well, Captain, were the Ur-Quan. The Ur-Quan evolved on a harsh planet, orbiting a star outside this region of space. They were solitary predators, like your praying mantis, Captain, or polar bear, who had a very limited set of social behaviors, most of which dealt with sex, since they had to compete for survival against many physically superior species. The Ur-Quan evolved intelligence and tool use in much the same way as your own species. The Ur-Quan also learned to master their fierce territoriality, to build a cooperative planetary culture. When the Ur-Quan were discovered by the Taalo, they had just begun exploring their solar system in crude atomic vehicles. Although the Ur-Quan attacked what they thought to be an invader, the Taalo were patient. They explained the purpose of the sentient milieu and offered the Ur-Quan membership. The Ur-Quan recognized the benefits that such a system provided, and once more conquered the hunting beast within themselves, to become cooperative, productive members of the milieu. This lasted for several thousands of years. Just over 20,000 years ago, when your ancestors were learning to chart the course of the moon and stars on animal horns, the sentient milieu spanned 500 light years and included the membership of 100 worlds. Like all other star travelers, they had discovered ruins and relics of a far more ancient culture, which your species calls the Precursors. Explorers from many species spent their lives trying to piece together this ancient mystery, but of all races, the Ur-Quan were the most bold adventurers. Their scouts, flying single ships, penetrated far into uncharted space and landed a million worlds. On one such mission, a young Ur-Quan made planetfall on a small, light-bearing alien world to identify some anomalous energy readings, occasionally a sign of precursor installations. Instead, the Ur-Quan found a small, hideous creature, a Dinari. Before the scout was able to defend itself, the Dinari creature took control of the Ur-Quan's mind and commanded the scout to place the Dinari aboard the Ur-Quan's ship, along with hundreds of its evil brood. Then, the Ur-Quan returned to the heart of the Milu, landing on its capital planet. Within hours, every resident of the planet was a Dinari slave. Within a month, Dinari compelled starships and spread the evil, psychic creatures across the entire Milu. When the Dinari took control over the Milu, one race fought back, the Taalo. These slow, quiet creatures were silicon-based life forms, but bore little resemblance to the modern Genjutsu. Taalo were natural immune to the Dinari psychic compulsion. They were unaffected by the creature's power, and the Dinari would not permit anyone to exist outside their control. So they ordered the remaining races of the Milu to attack and destroy the Taalo home planet. This planet was one of the few Milu worlds located in this region of space. I believe you call their star Delta Vulpeculae. Their home was a moon revolving about the second planet. I'm sad to say that the Taalo were indeed eliminated. However, at the time of their devastation they had completed a device which they thought would give other races psychic immunity like their own. What happened to this device, this shield? It's hard to say. Maybe it was destroyed in the attack on their homeworld. Maybe not.
I think we may have just found our way of defeating the Dinari and getting him out of the Umgar sector. If that is indeed true and that Taalo device still exists, I'm going to grab hold of it, take it to the Umgar homeworld and stomp that Dinari flat. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to put this. That planet is in Oz space, which means I've got to go and talk to them again.
In the Dinari's new empire, the Ur-Quan were the favored slaves. This is probably because the Ur-Quan were the most psychically sensitive, the most easily compelled. As the centuries of Dinari dominance passed, what was once the sentient Milu deteriorated and degenerated into a great galactic gulag. Alien races which did not serve with the efficiency and speed demanded by the Dinari were ruthlessly burned from the faces of their worlds. The agents of this genocide were inevitably the Dinari's favored pet, the Ur-Quan. After almost 2,500 years of unrelenting Dinari control, there were only 4 living member races of the once great sentient milieu. By this point, the Dinari had used genetic manipulation to split the Ur-Quan into 2 subspecies. The green Ur-Quan, scientists, technicians, and administrators who were responsible for maintaining the limited infrastructure of the Dinari civilization, and the black Ur-Quan, who filled the ranks of basic laborer and combat soldier. Then, a chance discovery by an Ur-Quan named Zerza. led to the violent overthrow of the Dinari slave empire. The Ur-Quan named Kazertza was a green, a researcher specializing in repairing the mental damage inflicted by long-term exposure to the Dinari's psychic compulsion. By this point in history, the Dinari had grown lax in their dominance, and on occasion accidentally permitted their slaves moments of self-direction. Kazertza was able to use those few scattered minutes to compose a theory. From its observations, Kazertza realized that when a slave died, the Dinari disconnected from the slave's mind, lest it too be dragged down to death. Further, the Ur-Quan scientist uncovered the fact that when a slave underwent great pain, the Dinari temporarily disconnected, but that the degree of pain had to be extreme, nearly lethal. Kazertza chose its moment carefully. It waited until it was near an open transmission unit. Then, in a short moment of mental freedom, the Ur-Quan injected itself with a dose of acidic poison, sending incredible waves of pain through its long body. In the few moments before its death, Kazertza was able to wrest control of the transmitter to send word of its discovery across the planet and into space as well. Before the Dinari knew what was happening, Ur-Quan everywhere were hacking at their own bodies with chunks of glass, burning themselves horribly, doing anything that would give them the few seconds of freedom necessary to find the nearest Dinari and crush the bleeding creature. As they gained longer and longer periods of control, the Ur-Quan developed new tools and weapons to destroy their evil masters. The most gruesome of these devices was the excruciator, a mechanism which was inserted directly into the brain and generated a constant stream of agony. The Dinari could not bring themselves to make the necessary mental connection with these tortured Ur-Quan. They were slaughtered by the thousands. The Ur-Quan slave revolt was won. When the last Ur-Quan was free of psychic compulsion, when the last freed Dinari was dead, the combined might of the Ur-Quan starfleets met in orbit above the Dinari homeworld. They had come together to make two important decisions. First, how to punish the few frightened Dinari left below on the planet's surface. Second, how to ensure that never again would the Ur-Quan be made slaves. The first decision was made swiftly. The Dinari would not be allowed to die. It was too kind a fate. Instead, the creatures would be genetically modified into sub-sentients. They would become dumb animals. These low creatures would be further debased by serving the Ur-Quan for all eternity in the most demeaning way the Ur-Quan could imagine, acting as translators, making physical contact with other species, whom the Ur-Quan now considered grossly inferior to themselves and revolting. The second decision how to ensure their freedom permanently, caused great turmoil. Following the successful Ur-Quan slave revolt, the Ur-Quan met to decide how to ensure their freedom. The Green Ur-Quan, who called themselves the Kazertza in honor of the Ur-Quan who triggered the revolt, wished to establish the Path of Now and Forever, which required that all other sentient species must become slaves of the Ur-Quan or be forever imprisoned beneath an impenetrable force shield. Leading the opposition to this plan was Korra, a charismatic fleet officer. Korra proposed a simpler alternative, the Eternal Doctrine. Simply put, this scheme called for the systematic eradication of all sentient life in the universe, aside from the Ur-Quan. Captain, if these positions seem to you extreme or unwarranted, you must remember that the Ur-Quan have been unwilling slaves for millennia, and that each of them had to remain in agony for years in order to defeat the Dinari. The followers of Kazertza and Korra were all on the brink of madness, but neither side would submit, and so they fought a bloody civil war. This is the last historical item we have for sale. The civil war between the Green Ur-Quan, the followers of Kazertza, and their opponents, the death-dealing Korra, lasted for decades. It is likely that they would have annihilated each other were it not for a chance discovery by Kazertza, a precursor battleship. The vessel was huge, many times the size of the Ur-Quan's vessels. The Precursor Ship sliced through the Korra forces in days. The Korra were defeated. However, in their victory, the Kazertza were humble. They realized that there was a chance, but they were wrong, and the Korra were right. Instead of destroying the Korra, the Kazertza let them go, directing them to make their way through the stars, traveling against the spin of the galaxy. The Kazertza would travel in the opposite direction, and when the two Ur-Quan forces met, they would fight again in ritual combat, with the Precursor battleship given to the winner. Captain, this is happening here and now. The Kazertza, the Ur-Quan who enslaved Earth, are fighting their ritual battle against the Korra in a large area centered near the Craterus constellation. If the Korra win this battle, Captain, the Kazertza will stand aside and let them kill us all. We believe it is your destiny to prevent this from happening. We regret to say that you have exhausted our supply of genuinely valuable information. However, we do have many thousands of useless facts, and that we will gladly sell you at a substantial discount. Are you interested? We thought not. It has been a pleasure dealing with you, Captain. We look forward to your next visit.
And thus ends the story of the Milu, and what a story. I'll see you next time, guys.